comprehensive plan called Envision Ashland. There was a slight mix-up, and it's all on me. We had publicized that tonight was going to be a discussion of theme 3, and in actuality, it's going to be a discussion of theme 1 and 5. So if you weren't here originally for theme 1 and 5, please consider staying and offering your questions and suggestions. I'm going to take you through some overall information about the whole plan, and then we're going to go specifically into the 2 different themes. Again, I'm going to be showing you a lot of information. The group that has been working on this is very excited about the plan. So as we said, this is Envision Ashland, and I'm Yolanda Greaves. I'm a member of the Ashland Select Board and one of the 2 Select Board members as part of the 29-member Comprehensive Plan Committee. And we have a few other members here online as well as here in the room with me. So let's get through this. Just give me a second. It's been a little bit since I've had to do PowerPoint on Zoom. And go. There we go. So a comprehensive plan is basically a roadmap for a community. This is a 10-year plan. There's been a lot of input from a lot of people. All of this information is online at the town website, so I'm not going to go through all the information on these pages that you're seeing, but just sort of taking you over some of the general overview. So the 3 big things here, at the core, a comprehensive plan seeks to answer 3 key questions. What forces have shaped our community over time? What makes our town unique? And then how should our town move forward in the next 10 years? And we've had input from a lot of people moving into these to this comprehensive plan. So this is now bringing it back to the public to say, did we get it right? And also trying to find out what are some of the priorities that you would like to see. Visions, priorities, and pathways. So what happens with a plan like this is we talked about what our vision for the community is, what our priorities and our pathways of getting there. Also, there is some very specific things that are needed through the state law for a Mass Comprehensive Plan, Mass General Law, Chapter 41, and it outlines the 7 elements that are essential to a comprehensive plan. Hey, Rob. A few more people are joining us here in the room. I thought I was going to be talking to myself, so thank you for being here. So we have 5 core themes that have been identified for our comprehensive plan. Again, for those of you that are coming in, this was supposed to be theme 3, and I made a mix-up, and I created everything for themes 1 and 5. So still stuff that's important, and we want your input. So theme 1 was building and enhancing community. Theme 2 is promoting long-term sustainability. Theme 3 is guiding development that honors open space and conservation. Theme 4 is enhancing town services and economic development. And theme 5 is creating a connected and accessible community. So we're going to be talking about theme 1, building and enhancing community, and theme 5, creating a connected and accessible community in tonight's session. We have about 90 minutes planned. The goal is to take you through some things, then have some discussion, and then wrap it up in a timely manner because we want to respect your time. Okay, so what we're aiming to achieve is we have 23 goals that match the different themes that we are going to review in 4 different sessions. So we're here tonight, August 25th. We have another session planned for September 2nd, September 4th, and then the last one, September 8th. And the goal is that we have feedback back to our consultants well before they need it for our next comprehensive plan, which is September 18th. So we have 81 strategies. We're looking at a very flexible roadmap. What can we do right away? Things might have to wait that we're going to take you through. We have 4 strategy types: capacity building, design, physical and acquisition, regulatory and policy, and programmatic. So different things that can affect the community in different ways. Sure, sure. Yes, yeah. So tonight was supposed to be theme 3, and we're doing 1 and 5, and then it'll be revised on the website. This is one of those things where we tried to pull this together sort of quickly, or as quickly as we could. Knowing it's tough at the end of summer, people are going into school, things like that. So, and just as volunteers trying to do it while we work and do other things. Community engagement by the numbers on this picture, on this slide. We reached about 100% of our goal for participation, and on this slide it talks about the number of participation points and how people got involved, giving us their thoughts, giving us their information, and giving input on what we think is important to the town of Ashland. This is our community vision statement. There was a lot of time spent on this. I will read this every session so that people hear it. Ashland, so by 2035, so a community vision statement, this is for where we want to be in 10 years. Ashland is a diverse, inclusive community that honors and preserves its small town charm, its rich history, and open space. The town features vibrant and sustainable neighborhoods with exceptional schools and aesthetically pleasing public and private space for living, learning, working, aging, shopping, and playing. Ashland's reimagining of land use prioritizes the creation of safe, walkable, bikeable, and multimodal transportation options to address the needs of its growing population, enhances community connectivity, and provides well-maintained, accessible recreation amenities. So that's our vision. As I said, we have 5 core themes: building and enhancing community, promoting long-term sustainability, guiding development that honors open space and conservation, enhancing town services and economic development, and creating a connected and accessible community. And there was, again, a mix-up. So tonight's session, we're going to be talking about building and enhancing community and creating connected and accessible community. The way these were split up was basically, I looked at the number of strategies that each of them had, and because we only had 4 nights, we split it up as evenly as possible. So, and I don't know that we're going to touch on every single strategy tonight, but we'll take you through the highlights. And again, this is available up on the website. We want you to take a look at it. We want you to give us your feedback. I don't think we'll be making any major changes. The goal is, did we get this right? As a community, do you feel that the comprehensive plan took in your information, worked with the consultant, and then presented this, and has created a path that we can move forward with? And I use my hands a lot when I speak, so here we go. So theme 1 is building and enhancing community. And there are, if you look at the plan online, there are some maps that talk about some of these things. As I was putting this together, the maps did not read well on a screen like this. And there's a lot of detail that I think, again, if you're interested in looking at the maps, you can go ahead and take a look at them. A big discussion that we had was, how are we going to measure if we've reached our goal? So as you can see here, we have 5 possible ways of measuring when we get to be this type of community, or when we continue to improve to this type of community. Because a lot of this is already happening, a lot of the feel. This is, what else can we add to our community moving forward? Okay, so this is sort of small, but if you're online, hopefully you're looking at it on the web as well. So there are 3. Hold on, let me double check. There are 3 sets of goals. There are 3 goals with multiple strategies. Let me say it that way. So our first goal is to strengthen social ties and civic engagement through community events, programs, and intergenerational activities. That's the main goal, or that's one of the 3 goals for this strategy, for this theme. I'll get all the words right at some point. We're already a pretty diverse and inclusive community, so how can we honor that and keep it going forward and still keep small town? Because every conversation, people want to have the small town charm, but yet embrace the changes that are happening in our community. So I think what we'll do is, I'm going to read through these, and if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand. So our 5 strategies for Goal 1A, and again, it's strengthen social ties and civic engagement through community events, programs, and intergenerational activities. Expand programming at community spaces, and I'm sort of touching at the top level. Strategy 1A is increase intergenerational program. Number 1A3 is improve online access to programs and activities. Strategy 1A4 is continue to promote programming designed to support Ashland's older residents and explore new ways to help keep them in our community. And then 1A5 is support efforts to grow Ashland's volunteer network to offer more educational, skill building, and recreational program for residents. We do a lot of things with volunteers here. I mean, most people that are sitting in this room with me, as I am, are volunteers to the community. Does that hit the spot? Does that make sense? Hold on. 1 second.
Thanks, Yolanda. Yeah, just wanted to comment, strategy 1A2, increase intergenerational program. That's great. I was just discussing actually with Marcia the other day, and she brought that up about increasing the use of the community center for more youth-oriented activities within the center, and this is intergenerations. Just seems like a great idea.
Okay,
so
great. Thank you for that feedback. You can actually hand to Joel right there.
2 things. One, off topic at the moment, I'm begging you to postpone the discussion of the Upper Charles Trail and the related other items on that item. We didn't know about this meeting. I would like my committee.
So what we're gonna do is, of every forum, if there's another theme that you want to talk about, we're gonna save time at the end of that to allow people to give their feedback. And I guess the thing that I'd like to say is the Upper Charles Trail is in this plan. It is a goal, it is a priority. Every meeting that we were at, every people, you know, so if your concern is that it's not in the plan, it is definitely in the plan. Some of the steps on how to get there are not here. This is just making sure that completing the Upper Charles Trail is in the plan.
I appreciate that. My concern, which I have asked for a meeting with you, as you know, and I hope to attend a board meeting soon, is, and I want to say that I'm speaking for myself and not on behalf of the committee here. We've been doing this for over 10 years. We've had virtually zero support from the board, from the town staff, and we're tired, and we're old. And it's time for a change. So my point is that my focus is going to be not whether it's in the plan, but whether there is a credible, realistic plan to implement it.
So
not that it's a popular
I'll
item.
let you know that that's the next step.
Okay.
Right? This plan is, what do we want to do in the next 10 years?
Understood.
Nowhere in this plan is it telling us how it's going to be implemented. And implementation of all of these strategies, right now, we are looking at creating an implementation committee that will say, okay, these are the strategies, these are our goals, this is how we want, what we want to achieve. The implementation committee will work with other groups to say, how are we going to complete them?
I'd like to comment on this section also.
Sure.
You have a lot of good things listed here.
Yep.
Very supportive of all of them.
Okay.
But what I kind of don't see itemized or made as explicit as I would like to see it made is the idea of private groups doing community activities. So what could that mean? A dog walking club, an Italian night dinner club, the Ashland Bike Club. I just want to complete this. Yeah. The Ashland Bike Club, maybe it's here, that would be great. The Ashland Bike Club has over 650 people on our mailing list now. We do over some 40,000 miles of rides per year. And I would hope that those type of activities would be enumerated and encouraged and supported by the town.
So, yeah, 1A1 actually says it too, right? Expand programming at community spaces such as the Farmers Market, the Corner Spot, Ashland Public Library to include more workshops, performances, and seasoned vendors that support local businesses. So 1A1 has it. And then 1A5 also, support efforts to grow Ashland's volunteer network to offer more educational, skill building, and recreational program for residents. Okay. So I think it's there.
I'd
The
love to see
discussion then will have to be an implementation as to how we make that happen.
I'd love to see adding to this something like both public and private partnerships to expand the offerings to the community.
Okay, we can look at that. Okay, great. Yeah.
I think this is Anna Tesmanitsky, one of the comprehensive plan members. I'm just commenting that I think strategy 1A5 somewhat covers what you're saying. I think we were very cautious as a comprehensive plan committee to be like hyper specific as to what volunteer network could mean. And obviously any volunteer network would have to work really closely with town staff, with our business community, et cetera. And so implied in that is the kind of partnership you're talking about. But we could think about more language to cover that.
Okay, great. I have 2 people online raising their hand. Mark Tassoni, go ahead and unmute yourself. And again, try to keep it to this goal and these strategies. Mark, go ahead, unmute. There you go.
Yes, Mark Tassoni, Mark Tassoni, 119 Main Street. Thank you for letting me speak. It is on one of the strategies, and I'm looking at it at strategy 1A4 to continue the promote program and design to support Ashland older relatives and explore new ways to help older adults stay active and engaged and living in the community. In what ways is the support, and at what ages is the older residents going to get some support and be engaged? What are the exact points of these things?
Again, Mark, I'm going to go back to what I said to Joel. This is a strategy that we don't have the specifics as to what engagement is going to happen. We don't have the specifics as to what age that is. I mean, older residents here in Ashland, we have a very large population over 75. Our population over 60 is also growing. So I think we can look at what that may mean. But that'll be something that as we look to implement this strategy, we will use the resources that we already have, whether it be our senior center or our community center or some of our rec programs, to determine what that's going to look like. Okay? Does that answer your question?
And when it does get answered, yes. And when it does get
I don't
answered,
have
will be publicly known.
Go ahead. Mark?
I just want to make sure. Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, once it does get answered, that the public, and like myself, I've been volunteering all that for the time, I just want to make sure that it's going to be something that's going to be said.
Once we have how we're going to do these strategies, we are definitely going to get it out to the community. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Okay. Rajashri, you can go ahead and unmute, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to echo, Yolanda, your thoughts on this and also add that we haven't quite discussed whether we will have an implementation committee or a working group, but we certainly will have a body that will work with the public and the town staff, sure that whatever goals and implementation practices we might adopt, that they get done and that they get done in ways that have been framed in this plan, and the specifics of those will unravel as we go along. This plan, mind you, is a high-level document, and so the specifics are not going to be possible to be added here. But some of the ideas are more than welcome. We will take that feedback back to our consultants. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Rob, did you have something on this one? No, this, Rob.
I'm happy to see seniors mentioned so many times. I happen to be one of them, unfortunately. What I don't see here, though, is something addressing the working class, the adults, and specific programs on maybe weekends or something like that could help folks that are working all week long. And It seems to be an omission.
Okay, we'll look into that. Yeah, good idea. Okay. I'd like to move us along because we still have a lot more to get through. And if you have other ideas or suggestions, I'll make myself available afterwards, and then or you can submit stuff to us online. We're going to go to the next page. This is goal 1B and 1C, and it's easier for me to read them this way. So goal 1B is celebrate and preserves Ashland cultural and historic identity. Strategy 1B is expand local funding and community partnerships to facilitate long-term and sustainable rehabilitation and reuse of public and privately owned historic buildings and structures. Strategy 1B2, incorporate interpretive signage at historic locations to support self-guided tours. Strategy 1B3, continue to develop a community-supported vision for the historic Valentine property, considering potential uses for recreation, meeting spaces, social functions, and other publicly accessible uses. Assess financial viability, needed improvements, and funding sources for implementation. Strategy 1B4, create a historic preservation plan to develop an updated inventory of historic properties and places, identify locations and public support for local historic districts, and consider making financial assistance available for historic preservation projects at key publicly and privately owned properties and places. So again, the reason this one is, the blue is highlighted, is the committee itself did a survey of the different strategies, and we were asked to prioritize of the different parts of the plan, all 29 people. This is a very small sampling. It was 20 people who responded, so it's not a big sampling. So as you're reading these and listening to these, if you have something that you think should be a higher priority or more of a priority as we move forward, we want to know that as well. But this was identified by a portion of the committee that responded, and the idea of finding a use for the Valentine property was very highly rated. A lot of people are like, we need to do something with that. Okay, goal 1C, and then we'll talk about both of them together. Develop inclusive and vibrant public spaces in central locations that serve as community gathering spots to foster a sense of community. We're doing this a lot, but we have some other strategies that we want to bring forward. Strategy 1C1, develop a unified system for accessing public buildings and fields. The libraries, the schools, recreation centers, by coordinating shared usage schedule and flexible hours and ensuring that staff responsibility for overseeing the system is clear to make sure that spaces can seamlessly transition between various community functions and are accessible to all residents. Strategy 1C2, revitalize the facilities and landscaping at Stone Park for safety and improved public use. And strategy 1C3, leverage planned long-term streetscapes improvement projects to incorporate planning for enhanced public gathering spaces in the early stages of projects. So, any thoughts on any of these strategies, positive, negative, tweaks? Again, what I see on some of these strategies, we're already taking minor steps to do them, and now we're just saying in our plan that we want to make sure this is documented, that we continue doing this work. So.
Catherine Jerzyk, 11 Rodman Road. On strategy 1C2, revitalize the facilities and landscaping at Stone Park for safety and improved public use. So I heard a lot of people talk about, let's say, quote, activate Stone Park, and I think people appreciate that, but potentially, like, there were things, splash pad, and I feel like the revitalize doesn't really necessarily, what I feel like that means is make what's there better, not potential to improve it. So I feel like if that was slightly altered, it would cover both scenarios better.
Okay. I'm hoping one of you is taking notes on this. Good. I can't do everything. Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. Joel?
I can't speak to the current policy, but my understanding is, or in the past has been, that for non-town groups with a legitimate purpose, let's say you wanted to talk about a potential override, pro or con, or you wanted to meet and talk about bicycling in Ashland or education, whatever your topic might be, that there has been a fee for use of the community center.
Yes.
And I would really, I wonder to what degree that discourages people from taking steps to do things that might be beneficial to the town because
Okay.
of the cost. And I just hope that can be looked into a little bit and see what
Well,
the
I mean,
options
again, we're
are.
not talking about specifics here, but I would say this, to remind people of the reason there is a cost is because if it's not someone from town staff or official town government, then they have to have someone there in the building. And most of the time, we have to pay those people. So if that's why, but we can look at that. But I think the idea of developing a system to access things, we can look at it at that
Right.
point.
Well, I think where you've emphasized, and I appreciate that, you
Yep.
have libraries, schools, fields,
Yep.
recreation fields, whatever it is,
Yep.
that there is an instance where, and I'm not aware that there are other instances of that where there's a fee attached. And I understand there may well be a reason for it,
Right.
but what are the trade-offs between having that fee there or having more resident participation?
Okay, we can look at that. And again, that might be as we move into implementation to discuss the idea of scheduling and how we can give people more access. But that would be something we can look at, okay?
Under 1C2, make Warren Woods more walkable. I know it's under the care of the Conservation Commission, but there are times of the year that it is a giant mud puddle, and it needs some bog bridges, and it needs some enhancing. So
Okay.
I think it fits
So I
right
think
in
we might have to
with making
look-
Stone Park more safe and usable.
Okay, we'll have to check, we'll see if yeah. So not only, so you want Warren Woods to be more accessible and, okay. Okay, okay. I think that's a good idea, yeah, okay, great, okay. Online, anything else for these sessions, for these strategies? No? Okay. We're gonna move along. Sure. So like when we did 126, when we were doing that planning, some work was talked about creating, a streetscape so that we looked at trees and things like that. Also looking at if there's a way to create a gathering place on some of these major construction things that we do, right? So like when we looked at 126, now granted it wasn't our project, it was a state project. But as we're doing some improvements on 135, could we have looked at, or if we make some changes to 135, could we look at creating more public gathering spaces? I mean, I think as a town, we have a lot of gathering spaces, but I know there's been questions about trying to add more green space closer, and that's in another, I don't know if it's in goal 5, but the idea that we have some kind of green space, outside space, park within a half a mile of everyone's home in Ashland. I don't know if we'll get there, but that's part of the discussion, and that's where that gets us
Well,
to.
that sounds good. I don't know where it fits because I had no time to read this.
That's fine.
But I would love to talk about our lack of having a bicycle committee. And I would like to talk relative to that, which is where I'd put it, but maybe there's a better place. To
Yeah.
have the lack of bike lanes in Ashland. We have one of the most dangerous towns to ride a bicycle in. And I know because I ride in all the other towns.
Yeah, I don't think I forget which I think it's under 5. 'cause
Okay,
in
that's great.
The connecting the committee.
I'll come back then.
Connecting the community. Yep. Thanks, Anna. Okay. Seeing nothing else, we're going to move on to theme 5, and it's part of this, Joel. Creating a connected and accessible community. And a lot of people want this. So how could we measure success for doing this? Miles of sidewalks, trails, bike paths built or upgraded, number of complete streets projects completed, number of new ADA compliant curb ramps installed, commuter rail ridership, boarding and sightings in Ashland, MWRTA ridership, boarding and sightings in Ashland, population within half-mile street or trail distance of the commuter rail station or MWRTA stops. And as you can see, there's one high priority strategy, and that is strategy 5A1, complete the Ashland Upper Charles Trail and Bay Circuit Trail projects. But let's go into some detail. Okay, so these, we have, I think 5 goals here. So goal 5A, 5B, 5C, oh, just the 3. Just 3 goals, but they have a number of strategies. So we're going to take these goals one at a time as we look at this. So for goal 5A, increase connectivity within Ashland and to neighboring communities by expanding a safe, accessible, and multimodal network of trails, streets, and transit connections that link neighborhoods, open spaces, and key destinations. Strategy 5A1, complete the Ashland Upper Charles Trail and Bay Circuit Trail projects. Strategy 5A2, launch an Upper Charles Trail expansion project to prioritize new trail connections. This should evaluate increasing tributary access to adjacent neighborhoods, new connections, and traffic calming in adjacent neighborhoods. 5A3, enhance options for crosstown multimodal connections, both on-street and off-street. Consider an Elliott Street, Fruit Street, Prospect Street, Main Street multimodal corridor, connections from downtown, Ashland and Route 135 to Pond Street, easements for a multi-use path along the power line corridor, and easements or incentives to make connecting paths between existing subdivisions. So 5A3 supports 5A1 because a lot of that are places that we're looking at putting the Upper Charles Trail. 5A4, create multi-use paths between neighborhoods through updates to the zoning bylaw to require accessible trails to connect subdivisions, large developments, and public facilities, including properties such as the MBTA station, community center, schools downtown, and Route 126 corridor. Again, a lot of this is all of these strategies work with strategy 1A. And I think one of the reasons we heard a lot of these various strategies is because not enough people, believe it or not, are aware of where the Upper Charles Trail is scheduled to go. So they all work together. Any questions or comments just on goal 5A? Joel.
I just want to highlight something. I founded and run a bike club with 650 people on our mailing list. We do 2 rides a week with 25, now we're averaging over 30 people per ride.
That's great.
We go 25 miles. We have residents mostly in their 60s, 70s. One guy's 89. It's unbelievable. And I spend most of my free time studying bicycle safety. This is what I do.
Yep.
And I'm not the only knowledgeable person. There's plenty of good people around. But they're not here in Ashland getting recognized. They're not given responsibility in Ashland. All of this is great. And I appreciate that it's implementation. What's missing here, and it really should be more explicit in my view, is the importance of government oversight to ensure safety. Framingham has a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee. They don't make laws. Their mayor, they go through channels. That's great. I want to highlight that almost 2 years ago now, when Ashland implemented its first little bit of bicycling infrastructure, very minor, right in the downtown, as part of the redoing of downtown, they made a lot of what I consider life-threatening mistakes. Sorry to be so harsh. And I brought that to the attention, as I should have, to the town's traffic safety committee. And I was told that the stuff that I wrote about and documented was so important. This was 2 years ago now. It was so important that the committee chair wanted to set up a meeting with the police chief, the chair of the select board, the town manager, the fire chief, the DPW director, and other key players. And I have repeatedly asked for that meeting or some form of, I don't have to be right about what I wrote, but to not even sit down and look at it and discuss it when it's a matter of safety. All of this would sound great. We're going to have safe streets and lots of nice infrastructure. Great. I'm all for it. But, if you don't follow up or put in place the oversight, which we just don't seem to ever get, we're just not going to be able to do any of this. It's all pie in the, it's all nice sounding, but it doesn't really happen. So I'm deeply concerned about that, and I want to just emphasize that I think the town needs to try to call together people with safety knowledge and bicycle skills and pedestrian skills as well to study what's going on in Ashland and make recommendations. And that's just not happening so far.
So what I would recommend, Joel, is keep going to the, keep going to the Traffic Safety Committee, because they're the ones who are the driving force for some of these things.
It's been
And/or come to a citizens' participation.
It's been a dead end.
Right, but I think, so, go ahead, Anna.
So as Yolanda explained, the whole concept of this is that this is the committee that set the goals and strategies, but then there'll be an implementation committee. And so what I would strongly urge you to do is notify your network that, hey, these are the goals, and if those individuals want to participate in the implementation committee and focus on this particular goal, that would be tremendously helpful.
Yep. And they might not even have to say that they'll be on whether it's a committee or a working group, but when we go to talk about these strategies and when there are things that the town has said, okay, we're now going to be working on these, when we call for volunteers to say, give us your insight, give us your input, please plan on coming to those sessions and meetings if you can.
I would really like to see the implementation committee be restricted to town residents only and not to town staff.
I think it's going to be a discussion, and it's probably,
Good.
I think, you know, we're still deciding that as our comprehensive plan committee. And I think, I mean, I would push back a little and say that it has to be a mix, because a majority of the work that is going to need to be done, staff is going to have to help us do it. So it should be a mix of staff and residents. But that's just my opinion as one person. As a comprehensive plan committee, we have not made a final decision. We're discussing that at our next meeting.
The mix that we've had of town staff with our volunteer committee, there's 9 of us. We've put in over 10 years, each one of us.
Yeah.
That's 90 years of volunteer time just for that one project.
Yep.
And we've gotten nothing done. So when you start mixing in the staff,
Well,
don't try to defend it.
I'd push back that we've got nothing done. I think we've gotten a few things done. I think, you know, and Joel, you know my line about our section of the trail, right? You've heard me say this. Holliston, it took them 20 years to create their trail, and they had an empty rail bed.
I just received an
It's only
email
been 10 years.
I just received an email from the town manager's office that
You know what? Let's have I think, you know, I think we could go down a rabbit hole about the trail and about some of those specifics. And I want to respect everyone who's here. So I received your email and we will have a conversation. Okay. Mark, you can unmute if it's to talk about strategy, about goal 5A and the strategies there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Sorry, 19.
You don't have to keep introducing yourself,
Okay.
Mark. You're
You
good.
said go 5. Okay, thank you. You're saying go 5A. What is this 5B right next to it?
Right. We haven't gotten to that one yet.
Is there going to be a chance that?
Yeah, we're going to talk about
Okay,
that
I'll
next.
wait
If you have
then.
no input on 5A, then we can jump to 5B. And let me read that, and then we can get your input.
I'll
Sound like a plan?
wait.
Okay, great. Goal
Okay, thank
5B,
you.
improve street safety and accessibility throughout Ashland's neighborhoods for community members of all ages and abilities to minimize automobile dependency and congestion while promoting sustainable mobility and options for residents. So strategy 5B1, update the complete streets prioritization plan to maintain eligibility for grant funding on priority projects. And strategy 2B2, that should be 5B2, develop a neighborhood shared streets program, including relevant signage, pavement markings, and infrastructure improvements to slow automobiles movement to safe speeds and encourage more comfortable walking, biking, and rolling on neighborhood streets. And then there are a number of streets that have been identified for multimodal street safety improvements. I'm not going to read them all there, but they are there. So if you look at that, I look at that and Route 126 is on it, and we know that 126 is getting improved. But if you have other streets that you think, I do look at that. I look at Newcastle Road. Newcastle Road is a very small street. So that's actually interesting that that's on there. Anyway, but it's based on public input. So someone who probably lives on Newcastle looked at that and said, I'd love to have sidewalks. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to let Mark go first, and then if you have other streets that you think should be added, or, so Mark, go ahead. Now we're talking about Goal 5B, improving our streets.
Okay. By the improvements, safety accessibility, so that whole first paragraph, and I'm looking at the strategy 5, it's supposed to be 5B2, and I'm looking at the street, Cherry Street. Is there going to be individual things happening? Because I live right off of Cherry Street, and I know that I tried walking it a couple of times, and it's not exactly great walking for full room. Is anything going to happen, or can said to be happen on Cherry Street itself?
So again, these are streets, the list of streets have been identified as potential streets to be upgraded with these two goals in mind, specifically Goal 5B, to make it safer. It's going to have to be part of a pavement plan, an implementation design, in regards to what will be a priority. If there are streets on here that you think should be a priority, let us know that, and that can be something that we point to when we start looking at what the improvements are going to be and when they are going to happen. Okay, Rajashree?
Yes.
Okay, and then that'd be my priority chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to add to what you said, Yolanda, so some of these streets were added. I know that Newcastle Road was one of my meeting in a boxes, which is the focus group discussions that I had done there with 9 residents of that road. In addition to people on Cedar Street and Olive Street and Oregon Road. So that's why, you know, if it gets represented in those MIABs, it gets counted as public engagement.
Right.
And that gets reflected in boxes like this.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you for that explanation. Joel and then Rob.
Thanks. Just a list of streets. I may be missing it up here. I don't see it. Thomas Street, Howe Street, Winter Street, and one I just forgot. That'll come back to me. The other thing that I don't know, there should be, this is all great to have, you know, street improvements and make it safer and study it and figure out what to do. When I am riding my bicycle around town and I hit a pothole that's dangerous and I get hurt or worse, I've had some beauties. I don't know what the process is. I don't know. It would be great if some towns have this. There's an app that they can get where I could just plug it in. This is where my accident happened.
So we've had it. I have to double check. I believe it's still active. So double check.
Right.
You know what? I'll figure that out and I'll let you know,
would be
because
great.
I believe there is a way. But again, if it's something we're already doing, it's not going to be in this strategic plan.
It's great.
Because
I just would like to have like an emergency situation. You know, we can plan to repave these
Yeah.
streets and however long it takes, whatever the budget is,
Yeah.
which ones are more important. That's all good. But if there's a dangerous situation existing right now, that should probably get a higher priority.
I think that's a call to DPW or a way to, you know, say that based on what I'm doing, this is what I'm seeing. That's an ongoing thing. That is not something that would be put into this is a long-term strategic plan on what we want to see improved. We've seen a lot of road work done this spring and summer, so a lot of roads are being paved, are being updated, are being made smoother. 135 is going to be great to finally ride on. The hill going up Main Street got improved in the spring. So we're doing things. So I would say if you have a road that you ride on that you find something, shoot it to Public Works and say, I've seen this issue. And
The last street was South Street that I hadn't mentioned before.
okay, great.
I have a question. So being in the plan, it's locations based on public input,
Yes.
but it's simply like public input without really prioritization
Yes.
or anything.
Yeah, this is
And I
just,
think that's a little odd because like we already have the traffic safety committee, and I believe that there was currently an RFP out to sort of prioritize. And I know things
So what I would say
Continue
is when we
change.
have our next meeting, I mean, based on what Rajashree said, the reason Newcastle is there is because she had a meeting in the box with people who lived on Newcastle. It's a very small street. There might be a lot of homes. It's a small street if you look at all the streets in Ashland. So I think this might be something that as the committee, we should go back to the consultant and say, maybe these aren't the right streets to be highlighting like this.
Well, I think it's either the wording or whatever about
Right.
it. I don't think quite adequately reflects.
Yep. Okay, Rob? Can you pass back to Rob? Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to just second what Kate was, I think, getting at about when you're prioritizing work to be done, especially sidewalk work, you really should have some sort of process, some sort, rather than, oh, somebody was in a meeting last year and said something. I mean, we need to have, some kind of parameters or process.
And the other thing to think about is our DPW is doing some of this work already, right? This is just sort of putting it in a
Right.
plan that says we want to prioritize and we want to have a better plan that the public is aware of.
Right. And I think, yeah, so, and it shouldn't, because I think the DPW process, whatever it may be, is not necessarily going to be transparent. You don't know how they're making those
Right.
decisions. I've noticed actually that the sidewalks, of course, are generally in much worse shape than the streets. So they're definitely a lesser priority. So, that's not mentioned here. Like, are you going to emphasize maintenance? So, you can be on a street that's relatively normal, and as a bicycle rider, for example, you're on the shoulder, it's in very bad shape. And the sidewalk could be even worse, could be undercutting and collapsing, but they're, I would say, sorry to Doug, but I think it's a less of a priority, sidewalks and
I would
the sides of
say here in
streets.
town, more people complain about the streets than the sidewalks, except when they're asking for more sidewalks.
Right.
But again, all of this is input that we
Sure.
will take, and as we finalize and bring this forward,
I just had a kind of a procedural question, again, going to the complete streets. It's put here, which is, of course, very important, but it's put here as primarily a safety measure. But I would argue that it's really part of Goal 5A, very importantly, because you can't have connections on street without having complete streets. So it's really, complete streets list is a major planning tool. Really, that's decides what's going to have connections. So I would just make that point that we somehow integrate the complete streets with Goal 5A, because that really is, if you want to connect something, is it a priority over certain other streets or not? And that's what Complete Streets does. So that would be my point
Great.
for that. So thank you.
and Rajashree has her hand up again. Rajashree?
Yes, so I just wanted to respond to the comments made by Rob and Kate. So there were a lot of boots on the ground talking to people in the community, and which is how we exceeded our goals with respect to public engagement. And so we were all, as a committee, very proud of our achievements. So every word that comes out of the mouth of a resident goes into our plan. So please understand that, when some streets are highlighted, doesn't mean that the other streets have gone to the wayside. It's important to understand that even if one street, which is an inch long or whatever you feel it is, because of the resounding ways in which participants added their views and opinions in developing this argument, they are all highlighted in ways that they're highlighted in ways that are respectful of their opinions. So to say that just because somebody said and you added it, I don't think that's the approach we took. Every opinion is important. We're happy to add on any other streets that you might have ideas on. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other input for 5A or 5B? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go on to 5C. So 5C, support regional mobility through transit services and corridor revitalization. Strategy 5C1, collaborate with MWRTA to increase frequency on the 5 and 6 bus routes in Ashland and explore service expansions along with increased local contributions to MWRTA. Create a new Clocker Express local bus route to connect more locations in Ashland. such as the Pond Street Corridor, Ashland Schools, the Community Center, to downtown and dedicated transit stops. Strategy 5C2, develop a comprehensive improvement plan for the Route 135 corridor that builds on past and ongoing efforts and incorporates community input. Consider projects that enhance the corridor's identity, such as branding, public art, and green infrastructure, to create a more vibrant and cohesive streetscape. Strategy 5C3, install bike racks and bike repair stations in public spaces along key corridors, including streets that connect Pond Street to the rest of Ashland, to promote bicycle, scooters, and other micromobility options as accessible and supported transportation options. And then the subcommittee created what they call the Clocker Express, a conceptual local bus route. Conceptual bus route map, which is in the plan that you can go look at, was developed by the subcommittee. And it connects downtown with points along Route 135, Route 126, the community center, and apartments near the MBTA commuter rail station. So, yeah. And that's strategy 5C. Any thoughts or comments on that? Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, so both this and the previous goal, I thought were generally very well put together. I do want to say that. And I like this Clocker Express idea and all the items in here. And the fact that we did call out, I see number 4, commuter rail ridership boardings and alightings in Ashland as measure success. The only thing I would point out that, and there isn't a lot of discussion about the MBTA commuter rail station here. It is referenced in some places, but I think we should look at kind of maybe making more definitive statements about it. That would be my...
In what way? What kind of,
Well, that's
because
what
we
I'm
don't
kind of
own the
wrestling.
station.
Right. No, I know what you're saying.
And as we've seen over the last few years, we don't have a lot of control
Right.
over what happens there. So
Yeah.
what would your recommendation
Yeah,
be?
that's what, I'm just kind of wrestling with that a little bit myself. I think just be a little more specific in some places about that there will be, you're going to encourage, like the MWRTA, make sure it stops at the MBTA station, the Clocker Express, be definitive that it stops there. And I don't know, I'll think about
Yeah, if
what
you have other
may, and I'll
things.
send,
Yeah,
maybe I'll
please send it in
something
so we
on
can look at
but
that.
That's great, thank you.
What I was going to say is the committee worked on this one we had a subcommittee that came up with this idea, the Clocker Express, and the stop at the MBTA was absolutely intended, and I think it's vaguely mentioned. But to your point, I could see kind of with the state's focus on MBTA zoning, it might be helpful to kind of say, in light of the importance of our community being an MBTA community, let's make sure this particular goal, we more blatantly tie it to the MBTA and just kind of highlight
I mean,
it.
if you look at the map,
It's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It goes up
Yeah.
Memorial Drive and back, so.
I guess what I'm saying is it could be as simple as a sentence that just sort of says, Ashland is an MBTA community, and this goal is consistent with state policy and focus on us being an MBTA community.
And again, this is one of those ones that we can't implement this, right? As a town, this is, I mean, the goal would be, and this strategy would have to be worked with the MWRTA, right?
thing,
We're going to have to find that partnership. We're going to have to, and let them show, and let them see that it's viable.
Right. One thing that just occurred to me was, are there traffic improvements we should be lobbying the T to make around the entrances to the stations? You know, there are Pleasant Street issues, if we ever go back to. So that's just something that just occurred to me. It's kind of
So as toward the end of the day, as people are leaving Pleasant, the Pleasant Street side of the station, it can get a little crazy over there.
So for example, if you are trying to turn left, which is a problem, you're going to block everybody who's turning right, for example. And they should just widen that. The T should do that. So that's just something that just occurred to me that doesn't necessarily
And
need
it's
to
one of
be
those
here.
things that as the property around that area might get developed, it might be something to look at.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on any of these strategies? Okay.
I guess I'll just add one comment,
Sure.
which is the Clocker Express, the language in here is vague for a reason. Like, it could be part of the MWRTA or not. It's really up to the implementation committee to figure that out. Like, in theory, it could be its own separate item.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, or if you have just general comments, that's it for the presentation for 1 through 5. Let me do this. I'm going to go back a couple of slides. And again, I don't have all the goals, but so these are the 5 core themes. And again, next week Tuesday, next week Thursday, and then the following week on Monday is when we'll finish discussing these. But if you come back or other people want to come back and give feedback on 1 and 5, they can do that. Core 2 is talking about promoting long-term sustainability. As a community, sustainability has always been something that we've really pushed for. We have goals to meet it. Hold on, I just want to pull something up. Some notes. Wrong thing. So there's a lot of strategies. So if you're interested in talking about 2, 3, and 4, and I apologize for the mix-up for tonight. I know people came planning to talk about 3, but what I'd recommend is if you are planning to come to any of those, whether it's in person or via Zoom, go to the website, find the strategies, and go through them. Because theme 3 has 4 goals and 12 strategies related to it. Theme 2 is promoting, the one we're talking about, promoting long-term sustainability. There are 4 goals and 27 strategies that have been identified just for theme 2, which is sustainability. So if that is something you are very interested about and really want to have some input, and make sure that we've hit the right target, that the things that were identified are really what we should be doing, please take the time to look at those and give us your feedback. And if you can't make it to a session, these are being recorded, but if you've watched it and you want to give feedback, you can reach out to the committee and we'll pass them on to the consultant. So theme 2 has 27 strategies, theme 3 has 12 strategies, and theme 4, which is enhance town services and economic development, also has 21 strategies. So a lot of information, a lot of things have been identified as to how we're going to move things forward based on this comprehensive plan. So take a look. The packet you have is just for themes 1 and 5 tonight. Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. On the first goal, I know you wanted to work on timing to make sure, but how we measure success. So measuring success for that first goal, percentage of seniors aging in place using town and community services versus leaving town. I have no idea how that would be measured, and I don't think it's a good idea to have something we can't. So maybe I'm missing something, but I mean, if someone's selling their house, do you know it's because their grandkids are like going to be closer to them and built an ADU, or it's because of that? So it seems I'm heavily supportive of having measurable goals. And ways, and I think that's great. That one just keeps not making sense to me.
Is it that, I mean, because I look at that and I go, okay, we could do, I mean, we know when homes are being sold, we could do some kind of reach out. A lot of times our senior center knows if people are moving out of town, but that would be a lot of work. So you're recommending either take that as a measurable, take it away as a way to measure our success?
It seems, I imagine some version of what you're doing with some amazing amount of effort, and what are we getting out of it? Like, let's focus on doing stuff, not. I feel
great.
like
that's good
off
input.
track.
Yeah. Any other input on, well, while we have, because we still have some time, we still have a half hour, on the prioritization of any of these goals. So let's go back, since we're here with theme 1, let's go back to theme 1, goal 1A. Of these goals, to strengthen social ties and civic engagement through the community events, programs, and intergenerational activities, as you read these, is there one or two that you think should be a priority and/or something that you're like, you know what, that's not as important and that can go to the bottom of the list? Any thoughts? Because we have 10 years. We're not going to do all of these in year one. We have to spread it out and determine what does the community think is the most important to try to get done right away, and what are some things that we're going to say, you know what, this is important, but we're going to push it out to the later years. Kate?
So we never did reach out to the larger community about priorities, right?
Nope.
And do we have a way to do that? Because I think it's great. I can't imagine out of too many people would disagree with Valentine, right? We put a lot of community money. It comes out. We keep paying for that, and I think people are excited about that. So, I'm not saying what we have is wrong, but I think it's maybe should figure out a way.
And maybe, and
actually-
again, this is a conversation, right? Because all of these things were identified as important to our community because of the different engagements that we have. And as I said in the beginning, some of the priorities were selected based on what the committee recommended. But again, the committee represents a lot of different organizations and a lot of different committees in town, right? So it's not, you know, we have someone from the Council on Aging. Yes, they might be leading with their thoughts, but hopefully they're bringing back stuff from their committee, right? That's the goal of why we had different committees and different precincts. So even though the majority of the prioritization has been done by the committee, I would say it's not done by the committee in a vacuum, right? They've received input from the community at large as they've been having conversations about the plan over these last 2 years.
I mean, I don't disagree. I think I guess if you're going to be highlighting that, we have to figure out a way to get that into.
Well,
more
and again, I understand that, you know, and we have some time, right? Again, with the implementation, we can reprioritize those. And the potential implementation is every year you're going to look at what you've done, what you've accomplished, what the community needs, and you might reprioritize on a yearly basis depending on what's going on, what finances are available, and things like that. So right now, it's just of the people sitting here and those of you that are online, of these, is there anything that you're like, that jumps out to me as something we should try to do right away? And while you guys are thinking, Mark, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at strategy 1A2. And just thinking within the 10-year period that we have going on, how well would that be in strategy for the future and the opportunities that there is programs other than at the Ashland Library and Senior Center? How else can you find like wellness and senior citizens programming for the town itself in the 10 years? How much is that going to be looked at for that?
Well, I think this is a strategy that we are looking at to, again, and it's increase that intergenerational programming. Part of it's going to be what the library can manage, what the community center can manage. You know, there's been conversation that we create a park and rec program, right? And if that happens at some point, could that park and rec program take on some of these things? These are ideas and strategies, and then we have to figure out how we want to do them and when we want to do them. So it's not, this is our roadmap. But as we all know, when you take a trip, you can go straight down your roadmap, or you can go in and out of your roadmap, taking different paths, different ways to get to the end result. And the discussion right now is, are these good strategies? Are these good goals for our community? What really is a priority? And then let's, you know, move this project forward. Does that make sense, Mark?
And for the priority, it does make sense. The priority part is like a seesaw. You're trying to balance the youth and Asian. won't there be a purpose for either one?
What is the purpose for either one? Well, I think one of the things we've
Yeah,
heard is that,
how can you balance?
I think everything we do here in town is a balancing act, right? I mean, we look at our budget. We look at when we're trying to figure out, okay, the schools need more resources, this department needs more resources, that department needs more resources. And we have to balance that with the income that we get in. We have to balance that with the available staff, with the available interest of people, and what people think is a priority. So it's all a balancing act. And right now, these are some potential strategies of ways to increase the connection between older residents and younger residents, because it has been proven that if you can make that connection between younger people and older people, it's a positive thing for your community. And we have a lot of, I don't know how many people know this, but we have more residents 65 and older than we do students in our schools, right? But there's certain requirements for our education that have to be done. We don't have specific requirements for our elderly. Okay, Joel, Rob, and then Rob.
And that's the reason why.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to let other people talk, okay?
That is the reason.
Okay, thank you. Joel?
I just want to highlight something when we talk about priorities. I like all of these things. They're all great ideas.
Okay.
We should really do this when we have the resources.
Okay.
I want to emphasize that what we shouldn't do when we talk priorities is say, okay, this is the most important one, let's do that. This is the second most important, then we'll do that, and so on, right?
Okay.
Many of these things, take a couple of examples here, okay? One of them is something blah, 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 the Council on Aging.
Yep.
They may be raring to go. They don't care that you're making it a lower priority. They
Right.
can do this right now.
Of course.
And so it doesn't have to be put on the back burner for 5 years or 20 to implement it. And the same with many of these other things. If we can muster the resources and the energy and the community involvement in these
Right.
things, they maybe all could happen simultaneously. Some may have limiting factors on budget or staff availability,
Right.
whatever. But we should make every effort to not have the phrase setting priorities eliminate things from the front of the queue.
I think that's a great way to look at it, Joel. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I do want to second what Joel just said. I think that's a useful way to looking at it. Like, when you look at, and Yolanda, you're raising a key point for all these, like, what is the priority? In some cases, the priorities don't conflict and actually should all be done. Some of these are new, which I would think, like the intergenerational thing, somebody has to actually do that. Whereas a lot of these others, there's people and organizations doing almost all these others right now and doing them very well, I would say. So I do want to second that we should try to do everything. But I think it goes back to what's the next step to implement this? How do you do prioritize when you've got things that may conflict or need resources, and how do you make that? That's where the implementation team, I think, is going to be a key part of any project like this. What is the compliance afterwards? We're not going to have a compliance officer because we can't afford it, but who's overseeing this and getting this done? So I think those are key questions.
Well,
So
I'm going to answer part of that question is we are going to look for residents who, and this hasn't been completely defined, but, it might be some people who helped create this comprehensive plan, but it might be new people. And the other thing that I think will probably happen is at some point, right, we'll look at these and we'll say, which is the one with Council on Aging, right? Increase intergenerational program at Council on Aging. To your point, that could be the Council on Aging that goes, you know what? We're gonna take that strategy on. And we're going to work with the community center and the library or whoever, or the schools. But someone may decide that that's something that they can take on. And then as whatever the implementation working group, whatever is called, they can say, okay, they're going to take that on and we'll just check in with them, right? So to your point, that's a strategy that could happen pretty quickly or not. If they say, you know what, we're not that interested in that, and we have to look at another way to do it. And that's what this whole thing, it's, with many plans like this, it's somewhat of a moving target, right? You have the ideas, you have the strategies, you get people excited. And that's the other thing that we're trying to do with these forums, is to get people excited, because None of this will move forward unless this whole plan, one, it has to go before the planning board and the select board, and that'll be happening in October. And then it has to go to town meeting. And the town as a whole has to say, we think this is a good idea for the town of Ashland, and we want to support this, and we want to have this move forward. And it's right, that too. Give her the microphone, yeah.
Town, we want to work in partnership with the select board, but as long as you, just like the comprehensive plan committee was chosen by select board and planning board, the concept is you repeat that for the implementation committee, and that's your compliance. That's your kind of check-in for the next 10, 15 years, where presumably the select board and the planning board is going to pay attention to this and make sure it's actually happening.
Okay. Rob, go ahead.
I was looking at that nice little quote from, I believe, the vision statement, and I just have to say again that Goal 1A strategies is a little bit inconsistent with that. I think if you took strategy 1A3 and said improve online access programs, activity services for all age groups, now you've built in the inclusiveness of the various, and you've got more diversity, and that complements 1A5, because by including people in more programs, people will start to feel closer to the community, and they will want to participate in the governance and services that the community renders.
It's a good point. And I have to say, and other members can jump in if they want, this was a big discussion during many of our comprehensive plan discussions about strategies and goals, and there was a focus on trying to keep seniors in the community. So I think that's where some of these came from. But, you know, we want to keep residents, we want to keep people here. But I like your idea of specifically for that one, right? We want online access programs, you know, and I think sometimes, because we also had the discussion about education and what's happening in our schools, except in one of our other themes, and it's not in either of these, we're not specifically talking about what the education needs are in our community, because the schools are handling that. The schools have their own strategic plan. They have their own goals and strategies as to what they're doing to make sure our schools are top-notch, and we have top-notch schools. So I think with these discussions, it was the other people who are currently not being serviced, or not as much, and that's why seniors were emphasized, because people wanted to keep seniors in the community.
And as a senior,
And
my compliments on that emphasis. Again,
Good.
you know, I'm just trying to be a little bit holistic.
Yep.
I'm trying to think kind of the policy we follow in the town forest. We try to offer programs, some that are specific to certain generations and some that are intergenerational.
Yep. Great. We should talk to the town forest. Okay, I'm going to go forward a little bit. So that was goal 1A. We're looking at goal 1B and 1C. Again, Valentine was one of those priorities that we just heard from a lot of people that they want it to be that space that's available to the community. And it's one of those ones that we still have to decide. So, it's the elephant in the town. The barn looks great, though. Any thoughts on any of these goals or strategies and thoughts? Seeing none, we'll move on. Creating a connecting and accessible. So let's look at these measures of success, right? So we talked about with theme 1 that we felt that one of the measures of success was not really doable. And Rob, you had mentioned about boardings and alightings as one of these. Any thoughts on these measures of success? Do they make sense? Are they things that we can actually measure? I think a lot of them are. Thoughts, though?
Yes. Right in the description to the left, I'll just read the first 5 or 6 words. It says, Ashland will improve community connectedness.
Yep.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what sidewalks and bike lanes and bike trails should be doing. That's perfect.
Yep.
But then I look on the right side, and I look for the word connectedness, I can't say it, and I look for pedestrian and bicycling networks,
Okay.
and I'm looking and looking and looking, and I
Number
don't
one,
see it.
miles of sidewalks, trails, bike paths
Yeah,
built
but
or upgraded.
the emphasis has to be, and this is a mistake that's very commonly made, if you put in a sidewalk because this neighborhood wanted one, or they have a dangerous street, that's good, and it doesn't tie into anything. You're a
Correct.
bike rider, you get and you land on Route 135 with 100 cars zooming by you. This is not, you can't go anywhere. So I really would love to see that, exactly what you wrote. You have a great description on the left. I'd like to see it incorporated on the right.
Do you have a suggestion, specific suggestion, right? Because I look at.
I would say miles of connected sidewalks and trails and bike paths.
So basically change number one.
Yeah.
To make it miles of connected.
It would be great.
Okay. You're getting that right, Roberta? Thank you. I think that's great. Any other thoughts on these measurements? I like that. Okay. Go ahead.
It has pained me. I'm doing a lot of complaining tonight. I'm not happy with the failures that this town has had, and I will speak to that in a different forum.
Okay.
But one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've got more data about this than I do. We have, and I supported complete streets. I went to hearings. I sat in with DOT people.
Yep.
It was great. We love complete streets. It sounds like it's complete. This is good stuff. Almost everything we've done with the budgets from complete streets has gone to sidewalks. What I don't see anything going to is bike lanes. Where do we have bike lanes other than what just got installed on 126 that the state did? Where do we have bike lanes? We have a joke of a bike lane, sorry to be critical, on Summer Street that connects what? You can go from CVS
To downtown.
to the post office, and that's it. It's dangerous, it's poorly designed, there's parking on there that shouldn't be there, there's all kinds of problems. And I would like to see some mechanism here. You know, we have these metrics that you've put in, number of projects completed. Well, that's great. Let's complete lots more. This is a good thing.
So here-
But I'd like to see a balance of some kind or a process. If people don't want bike lanes, fine, you know, but there
So
should be a
here-
process to level the funding.
So here's the thing to remember about complete streets, okay? When you talk about complete streets, a complete street can look different for a street in a small neighborhood versus a Route 126, right? If you look at the complete streets guidelines, right? Here's an example. So the lanterns off of Chestnut Street, okay? They don't have sidewalks, right? But it's considered a complete street because for that neighborhood, they don't need sidewalks, they don't need bike lanes, right? So a complete street, you look at what the needs are. And you're right, we could improve our bike lanes. We could look at that. And that's something that I think the other part is if we complete the Upper Charles Trail, the goal is that people won't need to ride on the streets. But to your point, we want people to ride on the streets. We want people to use less cars and potentially use more bikes. So it's something that is part of the strategies. And as we make plans, we will look at that.
I just want to highlight for anybody listening to this that we on the Upper Charles Trail Committee did everything we could possibly do to be as inclusive for as many residents as we could be. We tried to link together all the schools, the train station, downtown. This was the whole vision that we had. But it's really, really important, and I would caution comments like, once we have that, we won't have as many people riding on the streets. That might be true. More likely, we're going to have more people riding on the streets because there's no way that the trail can go on every single street in town. We did the best we could to make it equitable across the entire town. So, I think the reality is that we're going to have, if we build this, we will have more biking and little feeder roads coming from side streets and neighborhoods to reach the trail.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts on these possible ways to measure success? And then we have about 7 minutes left. I'm going to go to Goal 5A and Goal 5B. I really, realize that 5A, 2, 3, and 4 tie into the completion of the Upper Charles Trail. Any other thoughts on that or on 5B? What I would say is if you have streets that you think we should add to the multimodal street safety improvements, go ahead. Like for me, I see Route 126 on here. I personally, again, this is just me, I haven't brought it up to anybody else. I think Route 126 can come off of this because it's going to be done, right, in regards to making it safer. But I don't know. Again, it's a discussion. So if you have other streets that you think should be on here, let us know. If you don't want to think about it right now, if you're watching this at a later date, please send them in. We are asking that if you're watching this at a later date, that you get any input or changes to us no later than Monday, September 12th, because they have to get to our consultant, and they're going to put them in, and then our final review of the draft plan is going to be on Thursday, September 18th. And then from that meeting, it'll get scheduled to be presented at the Planning Board and the Select Board for review, and then the goal is then to bring it to the town meeting, which is in November, and I can't think of the date right now, but it's, I think, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Joel? Mm-hmm. Yep, so if you go to the website, there's an email for the comprehensive plan. On the town website, there's type in Ashland Comprehensive Plan. It will take you to the complete plan, not just what we looked at tonight. And you should also then find an email address there that goes to comp plan, and I think our co-chairs see that. And then it will all get passed on to our main contact at the consultant. Rob, and then Kate. Go ahead. Roberta is nice enough to take notes for me so that I don't have to try and do everything. Yeah, so there many years ago, I'm sure you remember this, there was a Complete Streets Committee. And then some of that rolled into Traffic Safety Committee. I believe Traffic Safety is now looking at complete streets and working with DPW. I don't know for sure though, but I can try to find out. Okay, we can look at that. Okay, great. Thanks for that note. And Kate?
Rob, but that if we made comments this evening, we can assume they're submitted essentially, or do we have to separately also submit them?
No, I think if Roberta, like I said, has been kind enough to take notes, and I will, Roberta and I can chat, and then, yeah, if it was said here tonight, you can basically think that it will be included and sent to the consultant to be included. Or at least reviewed by the committee, and then just, because it'll be one of those things where a suggestion will be made, and then at the committee level, we'll have to say, okay, this suggestion was made to add the one that Joel made about the connected, right, for that measurement. So we'll, it'll probably be run by, okay, this was a change that was made kind of thing. And then it'll just have to be reviewed by the committee. Great. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else from anyone online or here in person, I'm going to give you a few minutes, not very many minutes back from your night. Thank you for coming. I apologize again for the misunderstanding between which theme we were doing. Again, if you have people who want to give us more feedback about the trail or the importance or what they're reading here, just let us know. And then, just like we did tonight, we talked about some of the potential of some other themes. We can do that as well with the other nights that we do this. So September 2nd, I don't remember what's what, September 2nd, so next Tuesday, September 4th, which is next Thursday, and then the last one is Monday, September 8th. And again, I don't have the what's when in front of me, but whatever, I think next Monday, the 8th was supposed to be 1 and 5, so Monday, September 8th will now become theme 3. Yep. Okay. Great. Thank you all for coming. Again, if you're watching this online after it's been rebroadcast, please go to the town website, look at this in more detail, and feel free to give us input, but no later than September 12th. Thank you. And that's it.
Thank you,
You're very
Yolanda.
welcome.